Hey everyone, welcome back to Smutchat with JeenBean, yours truly. It's a monthly segment where I get to speak in depth with one of the amazing members of the Smutcap team. And this month I am joined by TSC member T. Hi T, welcome and introduce yourself.
Hello. Hi, I am T. I am one of the co-founders of the Smutcap, and I am living my best life up here in Canada, freezing my buns off in the winter.
Well, hopefully you're not freezing them up. I hope you have some warm setup going on over there because it does not look warm where you are right now.
No, it is on the chilly side, but I got my blanket, heating pad. I'm all cozy.
Ooh, that sounds.
Cozy with cozy company.
Oh, yay. Is that me or is that your cat or both?
No, that's you.
Oh,
Honey left. She's like, I'm out of here.
she's like, they're talking
This
too
isn't
much.
fun, Mom. You're not petting me. Yeah, pretty much.
Well, this month, you and I were chatting and we decided to tackle, a topic that is super niche, super small, really easy to solve for. We decided we wanted to talk about internalized misogyny because that's who we are,
Yeah.
apparently. Yeah, we made this really easy on ourselves. One of the things we chatted about when we were sort of brainstorming the topic was this kind of
Mhm.
not wanting to spend too much time thinking about the maybe the more obvious signs of internalized misogyny, right? So things like a knee-jerk reaction to maybe be competitive with other non-dominant gender folks, trying to one up
Mhm.
one another, or even like feeling threatened when somebody else is good at a thing that we are also good at. I think those are things most, if not all of us, have experienced at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah. And hopefully trying to grow
totally.
out of, at least I'm trying to. But in our conversation, we talked about sort of maybe a sign of internalized misogyny that might not be as obvious, and we landed on the topic of the tendency that a lot of us have to cut ourselves down or downplay our skills and accomplishments. So I would love to
Yes.
chat with you about this because it took me a minute to be like, how is this a form of internalized misogyny? And I think it, for me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, for me I think it landed on, well, men can't cut us down if we're already cutting ourselves down. And it's somewhere rooted in this idea that women are supposed to be, I don't know, submissive or quiet or humble or something like that. I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I have the same thought that it's like we got to be quiet and just not pump ourselves up and not be loud and not even being loud but just being like outspoken and verbal, like very be quiet and just listen, don't have a voice, don't make a
Mhm.
fuss, don't cause a fuss, that stuff. And um maybe that's a little plays into the I can't take a compliment because somebody's making a fuss over me and I don't want people to make a fuss over me, or I don't want other people to feel bad that
Mm.
I'm getting compliments and they're not. Try and keep the peace that way.
Mm.
Just being super conscious of how interactions may make other people feel in an environment that's not one on one with somebody. Um,
Oh gosh,
yeah, it's a doozy,
I
hey?
appreciate you saying that though, because I do think so much of that is this maybe the way women are socialized, and non-dominant genders in general are socialized to think about everyone else's needs first. And so, like, I know for me, if I'm leading a project, I do not ever feel comfortable taking full credit for something. I want to shout out every single person who helped. So there's
Yeah,
like an inclusiveness that I'm aiming for. But when people try to give me a compliment about my work or my contribution or my accomplishment, I definitely tend to bat it away. Like I literally tend to just be like, "Oh no, no, it wasn't that
yeah,
hard," or "It's no big deal. It was a team effort," or even just turn it right
yeah,
around and say, "Oh, but T, your contribution was so amazing," and I like deflect in that way. I don't know. Does that resonate with you at all?
yeah. It does. For me, this is kind of like more. My mindset is not unfortunately, but my mindset is more workplace focused because that's where I spend most of my time. Um, so having that internalized misogyny in the workplace is a doozy, um, especially when you're in a meeting or an event or something like that, and you are getting acknowledged or complimented on something you've done, um, that's a hard front of people, um, because it's like, hey, don't be fuss, not be fussy. Don't cause a fuss. Don't be the limelight. Don't draw attention to yourself. Just be in the back.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, and I wonder how much of
Yeah.
our like
Sorry, I lost my
no,
train of thought there a little bit.
totally
But
fine. I think it's right on the track. I think we're on the same tracks here because I think part of that for me, and I'd be curious, and you don't have to share obviously, but I'd be curious if some of this has to do with our family backgrounds of like maybe kids are meant to be seen and not heard, or girls are meant to be seen and not heard, or even women's roles as like peacekeepers in our family. Like
oh, totally.
yeah, and the idea that
Yeah,
seeking
I totally get what you're
attention,
saying.
yeah, and like seeking attention was not a thing that was celebrated. Like don't like every time I did anything as a kid that might have been seeking attention because I was a kid, it was very much like batted down of
Yeah.
like pipe down, don't make a fuss, exactly what you just said. So I that resonates pretty hard.
Yes. Yeah, and you know what? Now that you mentioned like family upbringing, yeah, totally. I was from a larger family, and I'm the youngest. I got hyper independent real fast, being the youngest. So you try not to not raise a fuss, but require a lot of attention. Just kind of be that good kid that's not a lot of work to deal with.
Oh my gosh, how many of
Trying
our
to figure out how to like reiterate this in the workplace and internalize such. It's a bit of a doozy in the sense that, and a little bit into my upbringing here, is I was raised in a two-parent household where women did a lot of the women things and men did a lot of the men things. I did not like doing the women things. I liked being in the garage, getting dirty, fixing things. So I kind of had this aspect of blue job, pink job,
mm,
I can do everything. So when it comes into the workplace, it's kind of like, why are women not supposed to be pumped up or accolades? Or I see it all the time in men's sports.
yeah, I oof man,
Sorry,
you're
I really went off on a
no, it's
tangent
not
there.
you're not on a tangent. That's like not a tangent at all. I think it's exactly right because there's even that sort of blue job, pink job thing definitely comes into the workplace too, right? Like why do women always
Oh
note
yeah.
take versus men? Like
Yes.
and then the excuse you always get is, well, I'm just no good at it. And that's just weaponized incompetent. That's just straight up misogyny at that point. That's not internalized
It
anymore.
is. And that is like, I try to shut that down real fast at home and in general. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I don't have the skills. Something you can learn. I did. Nobody's born with the skills that we have. We develop those over time.
Yeah. I love you
Why do
saying
I have to have a specific set of skills?
right. And like how limiting to think about like you are just good at this one thing, so keep doing this one thing. And like that's such a right, we would call that a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, to quote Miss Carol Dweck in
Yep.
learning mindsets. I think something I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about, and we can both talk about obviously, is how this might show up in the workplace, right? We spend 40-ish hours or so a week at work with our work people.
Mhm.
And I've started thinking recently about when younger women see me in the workplace, what do I want them to take away from me? Or what I want them to see, I guess, is like, do I want them to see someone who's always note taking?
Yeah.
Do I want them to see someone who, because of hyper independence, because of this need to be good at the things that we do, is just good at everything, but doesn't take any credit for it or anything like that? So I'd be curious to hear your
Yeah.
thoughts on this.
That is actually, that is giving me stuff to think about now. So generally in my workplace, I like to be that person that pumps you up, that gives you the confidence, that's like, you can do this. I know you can do this. If you don't know, ask. Like, I try to make it as growth mindset as possible. If you are scared to ask a question, find one person and ask that person if they know, instead of, if you're too shy to ask in a meeting or such like that. I've also made a point now of being louder in a good way and speaking up during meetings and saying, hey, why is this just affecting this particular group of people? Why was this decision made? Why isn't this group of people doing it? And not to call out unethical work practices or anything like that. That's not it. Just tell me why. More often than not, it's like, there's a logistics in place, like, oh, they already do XYZ. You guys just aren't doing it. So this is how you have to, this is why we're going to do it. So it's not
Yeah.
causing good chaos is what I call
Oh,
it.
I love good chaos.
Questioning things, being a little more verbal.
I'm a fan of good chaos. I'm a fan of
Yeah.
chaos in general, but good chaos in particular, I'm a big fan of. I guess how would we so like in the
Yeah.
workplace, right? You obviously are someone who's in charge a lot and running things really well, and I sense that you're the kind of person who does not turn in subpar work. Um, when you turn in your excellent work,
I try not to. Yep.
when you turn in your excellent work and you get compliments and accolades and all of that, like how do you feel? How do you deal with it? And be honest. And then we can talk about how we can be better at it.
Okay, so here's a mind blower for you. If it's coming from women, thank you. If it's coming from a male coworker, wasn't a problem.
Hmm.
Even though I know how much work it was. And this quite literally just came into my brain. It's like, I am downplaying my hard work and the amount of time and effort it takes to do something to male coworkers.
Interesting.
Why? I don't know. Maybe so I'm giving the sense of, oh, she can handle anything. So she's somebody we can rely on, or maybe to have like a different view or dynamic. Perhaps that's one of the reasons. But I am, and most recently, during my annual review, pumped myself up and said, I did over the however many months the work of 3 people in myself in my department. So you need to make note of that.
Yeah.
I worked really hard on this, and I'm being a little more honest on how much time stuff takes, how much harder it is, trying to develop that mindset.
Yeah. First of all, kudos to you. And I also think that that's so much easier said than done. So congrats on even starting that journey
Oh,
because
totally.
it's so interesting that your response would be different based on the gender that you're speaking to. Although I'm not super surprised to hear that because I think in general, I would say people of all genders, but it comes from like a patriarchal view of like women should not be quote unquote full of themselves or arrogant or whatever it is. And that we like society likes women who are humble about things, who don't acknowledge how talented they are or how hard something was or how pretty they are or whatever fill in the blank it
Yeah.
is. And something you said earlier that really struck me is like if younger women in the workplace are seeing me do that, what am I teaching them potentially? And like,
Yeah.
if they see something that I worked on and it looks like a lot of work, and it was, and I put a lot of work into it, and then I to my other supervisor or male colleagues say, "Oh, it's no biggie. Like, no worries. Don't worry about it. I got it." I mean, first of all, not only am I downplaying my skills and the work that I put into it, but I feel like younger people might see that and go, "Oh my gosh, well if Jeannie thought that that was easy, then there's no way that I'll ever learn how to do this or I'll never be good enough." And like I don't ever want to contribute to someone's lack of self-confidence
Yeah.
because I was
Totally.
gaslighting them kind of. Like it is sort of like a weird form of gaslighting.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one thing I guess I really hope to keep in my brain now that we've had this discussion is like we've had younger people come into the workplace or even newer people come into the workplace. And what kind of example do I want to set for them? What kind of work environment do I want or organization to have? Yeah, that's a little more mind opening and like, huh,
Yeah. I'm gonna have to sit with
it
this.
sticks in your brain a little bit
Yeah,
more.
I definitely have to sit with it a
Yeah,
little bit more because I also just realized that I gendered it again, and I said, do I want young women to feel that way? But I also think it's like it's the younger male generation too. Like I want young men to see women in charge and go, "That's awesome. I want to learn how to be like that." And
absolutely.
to like accept women
Oh,
as
totally.
leaders like that. So I will slap myself on the wrist here a little bit and say like it's for all genders. Like we should do it for everyone.
Yes. So yes, absolutely. It's that's a hard hitting one.
So
Like, yeah.
how do we interrupt this? Like, how do we both clearly just had a big revelation together, which thank you for being there with me on that. Um,
Mhm. Thank you for walking us through it.
I wonder how do we start to interrupt that tendency to downplay, to bat things off, even when someone in the bathroom of a bar says you look pretty and we want to downplay it. Like how do we start interrupting that? And just, I'm not expecting you to solve this, but maybe some ideas that you might have.
Yeah. So again, we're both taking compliments, saying thank you,
It's so simple.
and like just saying thank you, and try. I know the default is to return a compliment, which maybe not the
Mm,
best way to take the attention off yourself. Maybe a little more of a genuine compliment later on that's not in a return the favor kind of
yeah.
thing. I don't know why we have the return the favor mindset. Not a question I have the answer to at the moment. I also, and this is a guidance take through most experiences or most things that I find challenging is, would I let a friend
Mm,
talk to them about themselves like this? Or be this hard on themselves or such? And the answer is generally no. And so why would I let myself talk like that or think like that? I would never let a friend or even a coworker who I'm friendly with downplay their hard work or something they've done.
yeah.
Why would I why am I letting myself do that? Don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, no. And I know it's a tool to talk to yourself like you would a friend. The challenge comes into recognizing it in the
Mm,
moment and changing that mindset. I, for one, now that I'm thinking about it, when I go to work, I might be, when I'm talking to the fellow coworkers who are downplaying something, I'll be like, hey, you know what? Let's not downplay what we're doing or our hard work or and stuff anymore. Like, let's not do that. Does not make for a great work environment mentally and in the workplace itself. Maybe being a little more open about how to change these things. Get more people on that. Be friendly to yourself train.
yeah. I mean, honestly, I love that. We need to put more kindness into the world. And every time I say that, everyone agrees. But then when I'm like, we should be kinder to ourselves, everyone's like, I mean, but I think that's right. And I think that's so interesting because if we make it so like if we can start taking the credit for our work and our accomplishments, then maybe like men can't steal it from us anymore, or it makes it harder for them to steal credit for the work that we do,
Yeah.
or just people who do that, right, regardless of gender.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, simply saying thank you, that's great advice. Somehow that one's really hard but super simple. I think for me, like, it's having an honest conversation. I think something I started doing a while ago was like, all right, what are the things I know that I'm actually good at? Like, let me just sit down and think, like, what are two things that I know I'm good at? And these are the two things that when somebody compliments me on them, I'm just going to say thank you and not try and downplay it or anything. That even starting simple helps because it's practice. I honestly think a lot of this is just like we need to get better at practicing this piece. So to close us
Mm-hmm.
out, because we've been chatting for a bit, although I could chat with you for like 4 more hours, I'm not going to keep you that long. Um,
Totally. I'm like, we could just keep going.
T,
Here's a 6-part
yeah, all right, yeah,
series.
mini series. HBO, come sponsor us.
Yeah.
So to close out, T and I, we are going to try and practice what we preach, and we're both going to name two things about ourselves that we know that we are good at. I'll start, T, so you can have a couple seconds to think through some things.
Oh, good.
I I am a good singer. And I also know that I am a skilled communicator, both verbally and in writing. So those are two things that I know I'm good at. T, tell me what you're good at.
Before I do that, I'm going to say, Jeen, you are an excellent singer.
Thank
I saw your TikTok. That was very well done. And Jeen, you are an excellent communicator because this is one of the funnest interviews chats I've ever done. I felt at ease and not nervous. And like I could do this every day, just chat with you about something. So, Jeen, how are you going to take those
Thank
compliments?
you so much, T. As I blush over here.
Perfect. Blushing's allowed. So two things I'm good at. So I pride myself in being an excellent problem solver. And kind of the same, but kind of not. I'm also usually pretty good at giving advice to people. Sadly, I have no musical talent other than really good taste in music. That's what I'm really good at. Excellent taste in music.
First of all, that is worth hyping up, is having good, excellent taste in music. And I can affirm that you are an excellent problem solver. Every time I see your name pop up in the Smutcap Slack channel, you're always solving a problem. I think something you're very good at is you come to the table with solutions. Like you analyze the thing and then you go, well, what about this? And then everyone's like, oh, that's a great idea. So I think I would affirm you are very good at those things of getting advice and giving
I
advice and
have
problem
like
solving.
a whole not analogy. I had a whole conversation about problem solving with somebody and why I get frustrated during problem solving. That is an amazing conversation for later.
Okay. Well, we'll stay on after we stop recording so I can hear that story. But yes,
Yeah.
you are absolutely amazing at problem solving and giving advice to people. So, how are you going to respond to that?
Thank you. Thank you. And I accept that compliment.
It's so funny how uncomfortable both of us are right now in this moment, but we're also trying. So, good for us for trying.
I'm like physically comfortable and I'm just like, just take the
Yeah, just
compliment,
like
T.
this.
Just take the compliment.
I love it. I'm proud of us. And so we want to ask you, our
Yeah,
listeners,
yes.
anyone who's following, we want you to join us in this challenge. Please don't leave us hanging out here talking about the things that we're good at. Tell us what you're good at. We want to know. And we are
Yes.
really excited for you to watch this one. We'll catch you at the next Smut Chat next month. And we hope everyone stays smutty. Bye, everyone.
Bye.